sincere apologies for the previous video cutting off so abruptly. I don't really know why. I must have hit the pause button or something by mistake. At any rate, I rather wish I'd noticed that before reading the rest of the chapter, that it wasn't recording. Never mind, we'll consider that a trial run, so of course what I read now will be absolutely perfect. "Talk not of all these," cried Cecilia, "when one single obstacle has power to render them valueless." "But now," cried he, "that obstacle is surmounted." "Surmounted only for a moment. For even in your letter this morning you confess the regret with which it fills you." "And why should I deceive you? Why pretend to think with pleasure, or even with indifference, of an obstacle which has had thus long the power to make me miserable? But where is happiness without allay? Is perfect bliss the condition of humanity? Oh, if we refuse to taste it till in its last state of refinement, how shall the cup of evil be ever from our lips?" "How indeed?" said Cecilia with a sigh. "The regret, I believe, will remain eternally upon your mind, and she perhaps who should cause might soon be taught to partake of it." "Oh, Miss Beverley, how have I merited this severity? Did I make my proposals lightly? Did I suffer in my eagerness to conquer my reason? Have I not, on the contrary, been steady and considerate, neither biased by passion nor betrayed by tenderness?" "And yet in what," said Cecilia, "consists this boasted steadiness? I perceived it indeed at Delvile Castle, but here—" "The pride of heart which supported me there," cried he, "will support me no longer. What sustained my firmness but your apparent severity? What enabled me to fly you but your invariable coldness? The rigour with which I trampled upon my feelings I thought fortitude and spirit, but I knew not then the pitying sympathy of Cecilia." "Oh, that you knew it not yet!" cried she, blushing. "Before that fatal accident you thought of me, I believe, in a manner far more honourable." "Impossible. Differently I thought of you, but never better, never so well as now. I then represented you all lovely in beauty, all perfect in goodness and virtue, but it was virtue in its highest majesty, not as now blended with the softest sensibility." "Alas," said Cecilia, "how the portrait is faded!" "No, it is but more from life. It is the sublimity of an angel mingled with all that is attractive in woman. But who is the friend we may venture to trust? To whom may I give my bond? And from whom may I receive a treasure which for the rest of my life will constitute all its felicity?" "Where can I," cried Cecilia, "find a friend who in this critical moment will instruct me how to act?" "You will find one," answered he, "in your own bosom. Ask but yourself this plain question: will any virtue be offended by your honouring me with your hand? Yes, duty will be offended, since it is contrary to the will of your parents." "But is there no time for emancipation? Am I not of an age to choose for myself the partner of my life? Will not you in a few days be the uncontrolled mistress of your actions? Are we not both independent? Your ample fortune or your own, and the estates of my father so entailed, they must unavoidably be mine." "And are these," said Cecilia, "considerations to set us free from our duty?" "No, but they are circumstances to relieve us from slavery. Let me not offend you if I am still more explicit. When no law, human or divine, can be injured by our union, when one motive of pride is all that can be opposed to 1,000 motives of convenience and happiness, why should we both be made unhappy, merely lest that pride should lose its gratification?" This question, which so often and so angrily she had revolved in her own mind, again silenced her, and Delvile, with the eagerness of approaching success, redoubled his solicitations. "Be mine," he cried, "sweetest Cecilia, and all will go well. To refer me to my friends is effectually to banish me for ever. Spare me then the unavailing task, and save me from the resistless entreaties of a mother, whose every desire I have held sacred, whose wish has been my law, and whose commands I have implicitly, invariably obeyed. Oh, generously save me from the dreadful alternative of wounding her maternal heart by a peremptory refusal, or of torturing my own with pangs to which it is unequal by an extorted obedience." "Alas," cried Cecilia, "how utterly impossible I can relieve you." "And why? Once mine, irrevocably mine, No, that would but irritate, and irritate past hope of pardon. Indeed you are mistaken. To your merit they are far from insensible, and your fortune is just what they wish. Trust me, therefore, when I assure you that their displeasure, which both respect and justice will guard them from ever showing you, will soon die wholly away. I speak not merely from my hopes. In judging my own friends, I consider human nature in general. Inevitable evils are ever best supported. It is suspense, it is hope that makes the food of misery. Certainty is always endured, because known to be past amendment, and felt to give defiance to struggling. And can you, cried Cecilia, with reasoning so desperate, be satisfied? In a situation so extraordinary as ours, answered he, there is no other. The voice of the world at large will be all in our favour. Our union injures neither our fortunes nor taints our morality. With the character of each the other is satisfied, and both must be alike exculpated from mercenary views of interest or romantic contempt of property. What right have we, then, to repine at an objection which, however potent, is single? Surely none. Oh, if wholly unchecked were the happiness I now have in view, if no foul storm sometimes lowered over the prospect, and for a moment obscured its brightness, how could my heart find room for joy so superlative? The whole world might rise against me as the first man in it who had nothing left to wish. Cecilia, whose own hopes aided this reasoning, found not much to oppose it, and with little more of entreaty and still less of argument, Delvile at length obtained her consent to his plan. Fearfully, indeed, and with unfeigned reluctance, she gave it, but it was the only alternative with a separation for ever, to which she held not the necessity adequate to the pain. The thanks of Delvile were as vehement as had been his entreaties, which yet, however, were not at an end. The concession she had made was imperfect, unless its performance were immediate, and he now endeavoured to prevail with her to be his before the expiration of a week. Here, however, his task ceased to be difficult. Cecilia, as ingenuous by nature as she was honourable from principle, having once brought her mind to consent to his proposal, sought not by studied difficulties to enhance the value of her compliance. The general point resolved upon, she held all else of too little importance for a contest. Mrs Charlton was now called in, and acquainted with the result of their conference. Her approbation by no means followed the scheme of privacy, yet she was too much rejoiced in seeing her young friend near the period of her long suspense and uneasiness to oppose any plan which might forward their termination. Delvile then again begged to know what male confidant might be entrusted with their project. Mr Monckton immediately occurred to Cecilia, though the certainty of his ill will to the cause made all application to him disagreeable. But his long and steady friendship for her, his readiness to counsel and assist her, and the promises she had occasionally made not to act without his advice, all occurred to persuade her that in a matter of such importance she owed to him her confidence, and should be culpable to proceed without it. Upon him, therefore, she fixed, yet finding in herself a repugnance insuperable to acquainting him with her situation, she agreed that Delvile, who instantly proposed to be her messenger, should open to him the affair and prepare him for their meeting. Delvile then, rapid in thought and fertile in expedients, with a celerity and vigour which bore down all objections, arranged the whole conduct of the business. To avoid suspicion, he determined instantly to quit her, and as soon as he had executed his commission with Mr Monckton, to hasten to London, that the necessary preparations for their marriage might be made with dispatch and secrecy. He purposed also to find out Mr Belfield, that he might draw up the bond with which he meant to entrust Mr Monckton. This measure Cecilia would have opposed, but he refused to listen to her. Mrs Charlton herself, though her age and infirmities had long confined her to her own house, gratified Cecilia upon this critical occasion with consenting to accompany her to the altar. Mr Monckton was depended upon for giving her away, and a church in London was the place appointed for the performance of the ceremony. In 3 days the principal difficulties to the union would be removed by Cecilia's coming of age, and in 5 days it was agreed they should actually meet in town. The moment they were married, Delvile promised to set off for the castle, while in another chaise Cecilia returned to Mrs Charlton's. This settled, he conjured her to be punctual, and earnestly recommending himself to her fidelity and affection, he bid her adieu. Well, I can't see anything that could possibly go wrong with this plan. Can you? Have a good evening.